There I am. Hey, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, it is Thursday, and no matter where you are, how you are, or what you're feeling tonight, we're here to talk about grass. And I'm not talking about the recreational kind of sorts
Mm.
or the illegal kind, because Ray, they're rolling back uh, the cannabis. I don't know if you saw that in the news or not. This isn't a burner return episode, but we do have to talk about this real quick. They're rolling back
Yeah,
cannabis, Ray.
I saw that, but then that's going to become a whole nothing burger because I foresaw this outcome. I foresaw this, and do you all understand what classifying a drug as Schedule 3 means?
Tell us, Ray.
What that means is that it is a prescription drug. Possession by use or sale to anyone other than a prescription holder is a felony. And in order to get that prescription, you need to be seen by a DEA licensed practitioner, and
Mm-hmm.
that prescription is performed in triplicate with records kept. So
Uh,
anybody thinks that, well, look at it this way, Ryan, and I
uh-huh.
think you and I are both familiar with this. Is that TRT drugs are Schedule 3?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that pill you get from the dentist after he extracts your teeth, that's Schedule 3 as well. Uh,
You're gonna feel a little prick in
any
your mouth.
kind, yeah, any kind of like, let's see, what they call, benzodiazepine drug, like a Valium or a Librium or a Xanax, that's also Schedule 3. So anybody that thinks that it's being dropped down to Schedule 3 and it's party time, think again. Think again.
Well, there you go. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
tonight we are going to, besides getting drug talk with Ray, uh,
Mm-hmm.
this is your brain on drugs, and then this is your brain with Ray telling you about drugs. It's a lot better that way, folks. I'm just going to tell you, it's a lot better for you. Let's see here. We're gonna do old school lawn care help desk questions. You ask questions in the chat. We provide answers. Again, I'll give you the Matt Martin disclaimer. We may not know the answer. We may say I don't know because we are human. We are fallible, and Lord knows if there's any lawn care YouTube show that has fucked up more shit in lawn care than we have, I'd sure like to see it because I don't think it exists. Okay. So now that we have all that out of the way, we'll start here. So Lawns and Things wants to know, is Ray on Twitter? Ray?
No. Nope.
No. Okay.
Not on
Okay.
Twitter. I mean,
Eric,
I have a no
uh,
I have a no social media policy.
oh, well, Ray chooses
Yeah.
other ways to be tracked by the government, like eating the blue M&Ms, things like that. Uh, Eric wants to know, see attached
Mhm.
photo. I have a sedge. What would be the best to mix with the sedge hammer to kill this son of a bitch? Also, more violence up
Mhm.
front. Eric, do we have a picture on that, J Pink? Is that the picture that is
Yeah, it's that one
uh,
that's attached. It's this
the
one.
the
Yeah.
next one? Okay.
Okay.
Uh
Hmm.
oh, I don't know. Yeah, I
You know
don't
what?
think that's not sedge. I don't think.
No,
You know what? That
he
is
definitely also has sedge though. He just
Oh,
wants to know what
okay.
else to mix with this.
oh, okay.
Ooh. Okay. Ooh.
That's a little tricky right now. What's the weather going to be like there in hot
85-ish this weekend.
Knoxville weather? Does he have anything on
85.
hand? That would be my question.
Sledgehammer, quinclorac, triclopyr, cross.
Mm, the sledgehammer is going to beat up the sedge pretty good. Make sure he's got his NIS in there for sure.
Mhm.
And then as far as this other stuff goes, um, you said quinclorac and what? Triclopyr.
Triclopyr,
Uh-huh.
all on hand.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead and throw the quinclorac out there. I'd sure love to see uh an HPPD, a tenacity or something in there too with it as a spike. But if he's got nothing else, go ahead and run those two, and we'll see what we can clean up here. And that wild
Yeah,
violet, I guess, triclopyr, I guess go ahead and do it, but I would worry about temps right now and not really getting much to move through that plant. I think you're going to need either a different
you know,
chemical, like a phloxapyr there, Ray, if it's going to be this hot. But I don't know.
or wait till a little bit later in the season, because from what I know, triclopyr plus quinclorac in October is a definite winner in that area.
Very much so.
I mean, that is a proven, tried and true, and underutilized combination for fall cleanup of weeds in cool season lawns. I mean, it's not used often enough.
And there we go.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at Brett, Pro Turf Services would like to know, are professional applicators allowed to full Nelson mowing crews? As long as nobody passes out, I'd say you're okay. Again, I don't know the laws of the state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts very well. I would have to defer to our good friend Jesse Bousquet on that. And as everybody should know, Brett, if you're going to do that, tomorrow is a very special day. If you do get arrested, it is Shut the Fuck Up Friday. So make sure you do not incriminate yourself. Call Jesse and get yourself out of that situation. Let's go ahead and jump over here to Randy Jenkins. Hi, Randy. First time caller, maybe. I don't know about that. Let's see here. The clumsy carper seed going in the ground. Day 4. Going to roast here in Michigan for 4 to 5 days, mid-90. What to do? Water and pray for no issues. Yeah, so if it has already been watered and you have moistened that seed, you're going to have to ride this one out. I think the things to be careful about, and we had a little talk about this on our burn and return episode. If you want to go back and listen to it about with what did we talk about? Oh, Jordan Farmer, J Farm.
Yeah, J Farm. Yeah.
This stuff is different though because it's already in the ground, Ray. I'd be worried with the stretch that we're going to have because we're going to be touching the low 90s, even into the mid 90s in some parts here in the Midwest through the next 5-6 days. I think you just have to ride it out. If you want to be safe, if you want to feel really secure about it, go ahead and get yourself some methanoxam or Subdue.
Yep.
Just to spray on there, just in case you're worried about it. But the thing I've noticed too, and I think, let me go look here real quick, and I'll just pull up Detroit on the weather here because something I haven't looked closely at. Detroit, Michigan. Let's see what the dew point's going to be, Ray, because that'll tell us a little bit more about how.
Yeah, that'll tell us his hazard of Piscium hazard, right?
Yeah, how fucked we might be. So our dew points are generally, I'm looking here, Tuesday 64, 65. So it's not outlandishly high. It's going to be humid, but it's not going to be
ridiculous.
Like
yeah, it's not nuts. Yeah.
So I think the things I'd be concerned with there is just don't water too much in the heat of the day. Mid afternoon, things like that. It dries out a little bit. Don't be freaked out. It's going to dry out a little bit quicker than normal, and just make sure you get a good base of water down in the morning. Kind of ride that out a little bit, a couple spritzes during the day, and then let it go to bed a little bit on the drier side, and you'll be just fine. All right.
Yep.
Michael Pedroza. I am doing a FAFO reno of Ryan, I'm assuming Norris, perennial ryegrass in SoCal, Riverside, California, irrigated 2,500 square feet. What are my chances of getting it to hang on next summer? 95 to 110 degrees for 2 months. Michael, the answer is going to be no.
No.
I listen. RK has showed me some pictures privately of his stuff and some pretty challenging conditions. I'm not going to say flat out no, because he does have some really, really good stuff, and that's not me blowing smoke. I'm saying that he's picked some excellent varieties to have in that blend. That being said, that's a tall order, and I'd be just manage your expectations, and I think you'll be okay. And if you need to, if you get beat up for 2 months and maybe it's a good summer, it's a little bit cooler, something like that, you make it through. Hey, no big deal, no harm, no foul. And let's say that it's a little bit warmer and you're closer to that 110 mark, and some of it gets beat up. Just overseed the son of a bitch this time of year every year, and again, it'll grow back quick. It'll look great for the other 10 months of the year, and off you go. Okay. Let's see here. Michael Brantley, our good friend is over there at Turfology. Potential new client.
Hmm.
Sod company installed Zoysia sod October of last year. Looks to me like it got hammered with large pass this season. Is it too late to try and force some lateral growth? So again, Southern Illinois going towards St. Louis there from Michael. Ray, you know Zoysia
Don't
much better than I do. I was going to say, I
don't
don't think this is a good
don't.
idea.
I mean, if anything, Michael, now is the time to actually start putting down the azoxypropiconazole, Armada, or Lexicon. And let me tell you why. If Zoysia has a history of large patch happening, it is time to put on your A game for large patch prevention, and the time to start treating for large patch is literally in fall, and then one more application during spring green up.
Let me ask this, and I'd love to see pictures of this, but Ray, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that market established, is a little bit of a wetter spring, at least from what I remember in that area,
Yeah.
or excuse me, wetter fall, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that could have been large patch on, immature or poorly rooted sod versus just sod that maybe didn't make it? Is that
Or
possible?
Pisium. It's
Yeah.
possible, but nonetheless, when somebody says wet fall, that just starts off all the alarm bells for large patch. I mean, that's just the conducive conditions is this wet, cold, rainy weather, no sun. That just throws all the alarm bells for large patch there.
Sure. There we go. Okay. Good talk. Michael, hope things are going well for you guys over there. Let's see here. Todders Total Turf Care wants to know what's Ray's thoughts on Q4 cool season grasses, one stop shop when I have low grade crab. I have some opinions on this, but Ray, I'll let you go first.
Okay. You know what, Todders? Problem with Q4 is that Q4 doesn't contain enough quinclorac in it to provide the knockout punch on crabgrass. I don't care if it's even low grade. I mean, because if I'm going to use quinclorac, I want full label rate, which would be equivalent to either 64 ounces of the liquid or else 1 pound of the quinclorac dry flowable. I mean, I would insist that if I'm going to kill something, I'm going to kill it and not just give it a temporary headache.
I completely agree. I think Q4 was, Matt has talked about and railed against these products before about, these quote unquote new products, which are just a combination of different herbicides or fungicides, things of
Mm-hmm.
that nature. And I think that this was an easy button for people that, especially in the lawn care space, because people spray a ton of it in the lawn care space, but it does not lack that punch. And typically, if you're going after anything over 2 tiller, like quinclorac alone is not going to touch that. It's just going to piss it off. It's not going to work. You're going to piss yourself off. You're going to piss your clients off. You're going to have callbacks. It's not worth it. So, we're at that stage of the game now, depending on your location, do you let it ride out and not do anything and just let the frost take care of it? I'm a fan of, if you're really riddled with it, go out and take care of it now with quinclorac. You can throw tenacity in there so it's seed safe. Pilex has a little bit longer residual
Mm-hmm.
as far as the seed window. So do yourself a favor, try and get it nipped in the bud. And if you're going to do any aeration overseed on those lawns, absolutely just get rid of it so there's no competition and you're overseeding into those carcasses and you can regrow some desirable turf.
Mm-hmm.
Okie dokie. Let's look here. Looking to get a pull behind striper for my, this is Ryan, not me, by the way. Looking to get a pull behind
Mm-hmm.
striper for my John Deere. When looking at them, what should I care about? Brand, style, or just whatever fits? Um, my big things with a pull behind striper, and I guess I'm not thinking of like a roller per se, but just the construction of it. Replaceable parts. If the bearings or where the movable parts tie in, are those spots or parts replaceable as wear items, or are you just junking the whole thing and throwing it away? So I don't know, Ray. I don't really get into the whole pull behind striper thing too much, so I don't know, but that would be just something off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean that would be my thought too. Is that and as far as striping, if I'm going to stripe something, it's going to get done with an actual reel mower. I mean,
Well,
because
not
I
everybody
don't
does
like
that.
to. Yeah, but I don't like the idea of running something through the grass for the sake of what it looks like while not actually serving any other function.
Hmm.
I mean, because all of these rollers and brushes and whatnot, do you know what they do to the grass? They tear up and abrade the grass. And I'm not a fan of doing that to grass unless it's actually serving some other function. So for me, I'd much rather have that fairway mower set up to cut at about an inch instead.
That's true, and I think, that is true, that true, and something people that don't think about too often is, there is a certain amount of stress, especially when you have, a solid roller that goes across, even if it's front, back, I don't care, and if you wanna think about it, let's just say it's, those rubber rollers or, the steel drum on, like, a GM 1000, something like that. I always tell people,
Mm-hmm.
take a piece of metal or uh whatever that device is made out of and, put it on your skin just like this,
Mm-hmm.
twist it and turn it. I mean, over time, you keep doing that, it's gonna, it's not gonna feel good. And uh, shoot tissues are, just as sensitive, if not more so, to that type of tearing, abrading, things like that. So, especially in times of high stress, everything like that. Like, I don't know. I feel I have a lot stronger opinions of being that striping isn't as important. I mean, it looks cool and everything like that, but I agree, Ray, that tangible benefit there from a turf health perspective isn't so negatively
Yeah.
impacted that nobody should do it, but at the same time, like, eh, I can go without it.
Yeah. I mean, do you really have to, right, Ryan? Do you really
Do
need
you
to
really
do
need to
that?
wear
And
do you really need to wear that Hawaiian print shirt to the party to make a statement? You don't have to. Just be yourself,
yeah,
man.
exactly.
Just go in high
Yeah.
on life. So, yeah, I don't know about that. Okay. Uh, J-Pink, can you show those pictures really quick that Michael sent over on the Zoysia? Just see, Ray, if this jogs anything. Kinda, it's a little low quality coming from my phone, so I apologize for that, but I believe these
No
are now
problem.
pictures. Anything you see here? Anything that jumps out at you?
Well, that would be a Zoysia sod install that just plain didn't take due to multiple factors.
Okay.
It just
So this
didn't
so
take, and
large patch? I mean, I think it's hard to tell at this point
poss-
how
hard to
much.
tell how much of that is large patch and how much of that is just bad aftercare.
Uh-huh.
Bad aftercare because you know what my most frequent foobar situation is? Somebody has thousands of dollars worth of Zoysia sod and they have absolutely no clue how to grow it in and take care of it so that it all doesn't die.
Yeah. He's right in the Ohio River Valley, Mississippi Valley area, and there's so much of
Mm-hmm.
that. Like, hey, we're just going to use Zoysia because it'll, withstand this, this stress in the summertime,
Mm-hmm.
and it won't look as bad. But I don't know that it's as easy button as people think it is, and I think again, it's just an area. It's a really tough area to grow grass successfully 9, 10, 11 months out of the year. It is.
Yep.
I
Yep.
give those
And not
guys
easy,
a
right?
ton of credit because it's not easy.
Yeah.
Um,
And Zoysia is not an easy button, but unfortunately, the grass growers keep on touting it as easy button. And that, folks, just burns my ass when they do things like that.
it happens. It happens, right? Okay, let's jump down here. David Clausen wants to know: is there any benefit to adding wetting agent to soil during Kentucky bluegrass establishment? I can't say definitively, David. I think it helps your cause in terms of not so much holding moisture per se, but more so to the point
Mm.
of evening out your dry down. So the high spots and the knobs might not dry out as quickly as some of your other areas. So just be mindful of those things. Um, I don't think it's an absolute necessity. And if you were going to do it, I would also probably go the granular route as opposed to a sprayed product. So keep that in mind. Gardener Earth Guy, one of our
Mm.
very frequent commenters on our videos, and thank you for that, sir.
Yeah. Mhm.
Let's see here. He wants to know how will California banning internal combustion engines affect affect our friends on the West Coast. Gardener Earth Guy, we've talked a lot about this at various stages and iterations on Burn and Returned episodes, which, by the way, if you enjoy those, you can watch us record those live Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, if you're a member of the channel. And if not, you can enjoy those when they drop every Wednesday here on YouTube and on your favorite podcast platform. So check that out. But we cover current events, and some of those things have come down the pike as of late. Those it's situations where people are banning engines. And Ray, I think the points, if I remember sort of all the different iterations we've talked about this, have been uh it's probably whatever the lead time is not a fast enough time for everybody to switch, especially when you think about all the professionals, let alone the homeowners that do this in California. And number two, just the
Mhm.
infrastructure to do that. If and when we have brownouts and rolling blackouts and all these kind of things, like, well, if I can't charge my
Power
mower, I'm sorry, Mr.
cuts.
Chintz. Yeah.
All, yeah, all that power cuts and California, from what I hear,
Hmm.
has pushed very hard on the electrification angle to the point of, get this one,
Yes, sir.
they are even considering generators a prohibited small internal combustion engine.
How does that work?
I mean,
Okay.
that's just to where they want to make sure that people are solely dependent on their government controlled power grid. And you know what I'm wondering? How does that work for a lawn and landscape professional that is doing the right thing and has converted all of his equipment to battery operated equipment, and he needs to have those battery packs charged up in between clients? How does that work, Ryan?
Go into a charging station, go into one of the Tesla things. I don't, a supercharger. I don't know. I think that there leaves a lot to be uh, figured out there. I think the other thing, Garden Earth Guy, that we talked about, and I thought this was always interesting, an interesting angle to it. California is a incredibly diverse state, and not just by population, demographics, ethnicities, things like that, but just the fact that, like, when you're on the coast, out by San Francisco in the Bay Area, and you roll 100 miles inland, and you're in the Central Valley rolling down I-5, it is a completely different world. I mean, like, totally different. And so, what works in one part of the state may not work in the other part of the state, and it's just a lot to come down and drop on people. So, speaking of dropping, Ray was out,
Mm.
came back.
Mm.
He's here now,
Mhm.
and I was right.
Mhm.
I was about to shrivel up into the fetal position and start crying. It was going to be bad.
No, I'm good.
Uh,
I'm good, Ryan. Yeah, my camera had a little glitch and I had to reboot that.
Gosh, darn it. The Chinese are watching
Yeah.
again. All right, Kevin Shepard, our good friend up in
Mhm.
upstate New York, wants to know: I have Kabuto on the way for spring dead spot prevention for next season. I
Mhm.
Do I have enough time for the fungicide to be systemic enough for spring dead spot prevention in upstate New York? Sprigged iron cutter, and he's at day 45. And I saw a picture of this yesterday. It's impressive what Kevin has done
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
a very short time,
he's
less than
doing
7 weeks.
good.
And
Yeah,
I think
he's doing
he
good. I mean,
I,
yeah.
I wouldn't let the I don't know that I have a good answer to your question, Kevin. Um, Other than I can say anecdotally, I've sprayed later than this. Now, granted, we're 200 miles south of where you're at, roughly as a crow flies. So I would go ahead and spray it. I mean, even if it's just reduced in efficacy, I'd still, in your climate, rather have that out there just in case, especially with all the time, effort,
Mhm.
and money that you've put into that thing.
Yep.
Even if I get 10 or 15% less efficacy, I'd still sleep better at night. So, yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
Johnny
send it.
Fescue.
Send it.
Johnny Fescue has a Bermuda question here, Ray. Newly
Mhm.
sodded Tahoma in June, Middle Tennessee, sports turf. Oh boy. Advise customer to not overseed the first fall, especially. Customer has no choice. No in capital letters. Gun to their head, Ray. Very
Mhm.
serious. Would you apply starter fert after the Bermuda is dormant or not at all? I guess I would think that you're overseeding this before. If this is a sports tour situation, I guess there's one of two situations. Either fall sport, which hopefully you've overseeded already. If you haven't, I mean, kind of a moot point, I guess. If this is probably, if I'm thinking and reading this right, this might be for a baseball or a spring sports field. If that's the case,
Mhm.
I don't necessarily have a problem with applying the starter fertilizer. I would check and see if you absolutely need to. I think your ryegrass in the right weather conditions, especially in Middle Tennessee and say like you know October into November, that should be no problem at all. I don't know that you'd have to put much of anything out there. Maybe you could do some foliar sprays, once it comes up, but I don't know that I get
Yep.
carried away, slinging a granular
Mhm.
at that time. Because there's,
Yeah,
the only thing that's going to be there to take it up is going to be juvenile roots. And I know, Ray, you and I are not big fans of nutrient loading at establishment for any grass.
yeah, that's just not necessary, not productive, and you know, just one of those lawn care memes that I wish would just die.
Okay. Johnny is saying perennial rye for baseball and softball. Uh, that's the one thing. It's tough in that area. Like you don't have a choice. You have to go with Bermuda and you have to overseed it. I'll just say that as soon as they're done, playing on that, smoke that out with sulfonylurea. Promise me, don't let the heat get it or any of that other bullshit. Spray it out with a sulfonylurea, get rid of it, and let your Tahoma chooch. Okay, and
Mhm. Yep.
go with it like that. I don't none of the holistic healing, hospice overseed lawn care. Ray, that's even worse than regular hospice lawn care.
No. No.
But
No. No, no,
exponentially worse.
no.
All right, let's
No.
see. Jackson Bud. That's a real name.
Mhm.
Kind of sounds like a porn star playing a baseball player or something. I don't know. Sorry, Jackson.
Yikes.
Hopefully your mom's not listening. What would be a good pre-emergent for South Texas if doing winter overseed? Spectacle label has a long reseed interval. Um,
Mhm.
Ray, if this were me, I think dithiopyr is probably your best bet. Uh, Going on the lower end,
And
although.
it's labeled for it too. In fact, there is something where you can apply ethiopia to a overseed, like close to the time of your overseed. So you can overseed, let it come up, and then dithiopyr that overseed, like within I think 30 to 45 days after, if I'm guessing. I
Mhm.
don't have the label in front of me, but I'm just guessing.
I want to say it's 60. I think it's a 60-day window. Don't quote me on that, but
Okay.
yeah. Let me see here. McCurdy overseed. I'm gonna see if I can find something. Mississippi State, Jay McCurdy. He's their turf weed ecologist and a very smart individual, great guy. And he has a couple of things here, and it's mainly for sports fields, if I remember correctly. But um, let's see. I'll just post this whole darn thing. Let me send this over to J Pink, and I don't know if Jackson's in the Discord or not, but if he is, he can get this, and we'll throw it up there. Okay, back to the chat. We're trying to move it along, folks. Trying to keep it to an hour tight. Apparently, word has it that the quicker we go, the more positive feedback we go. So this is kind of like the opposite of being in the
I like the
sack.
smell.
And Oli sometimes comes in, um, and lets us know. But Spencer, what are we smelling?
I like the smell.
You are a fucking pussy.
Oh. Oh. That got weird really quickly. Sorry, Oli.
Yeah.
All right, Dave. Dave Mayotte wants to know. I just see the perennial ryegrass this evening. Congratulations, Dave. Can I spray quinclorac, glyphosate, and tenacity tomorrow? Did I miss the window? Upstate New York. Yes to all those things. This is kind of like you dropped it on the floor. There's a 5-second rule. Glyphosate for sure has a work at Kansas State. But gosh, a dozen or so years ago was even 3 days after seeding, it was okay to use glyphosate after seeding. So when chloric is safe at day of seeding, tenacity also the same. You're still within the statute of limitations. So Dave, by all means, send it. Ray, any objections?
Send it. Go for it. Go for it. I mean, as long as the seed hasn't started to germinate yet, send it. I mean, don't be a pussy. Go for it.
All right. So let's see here. Matt Chenchi wants to know, for cool season lawns, I'm trying to understand what flumioxazin and fluoxapyr benefits are in getting rid of undesirable grasses and weeds, right? So, what's the name of that product that I'm thinking of here, Ray?
Are you thinking of Shore Power?
Shore Power. That's it. Yep.
Yeah, because that was the thing.
And I think maybe that's what he's getting at. Why? Because you're not going to just spray the flumioxazin if you're trying to cut rates of SureGuard and sit there and mess around. I wouldn't do that. But
no.
So Shore Power, I can't say that I've used a ton of it. I've played around with it a little bit in certain situations, and from what the new farm people have educated users on is about using it in the times when the grass is sort of hardened off. It's not in this very lush green state, right? So if you do have irrigation, you kind of have to shut it off. If you had a ton of rainfall and it's growing well, it's actually kind of a odd thing, a little bit counterintuitive in terms of having the grass
counterintuitive,
stressed out a little bit. So Ray, just talk a little bit, because they'll tout the benefits here on ground ivy and wild violet, particularly, two very difficult to control weeds here in cool season country. So is there anything that you can speak to regarding the chemistry of those two AIs and why they're so good at those difficult to control weeds, or so effective?
First of all, flumioxazin is a very strong, what's known as a PPOI inhibitor, extremely strong. But, to give you the 50-cent version of this, what that means is that when you apply low rates of flumioxazin to a weed, that is literally opening up holes in the weed's leaf tissue. And when you open up those holes, that is providing entry points for whatever herbicides you apply with it. And specifically, that's providing an entry point for fluroxapyr. And fluroxapyr, think of fluroxapyr as essentially triclopyr on steroids. It is an incredible, powerful broadleaf herbicide. So it's just basically attacking the weeds from two angles, and it's able to do things that your normal conventional three-way just cannot do, especially in late summer. And by the way, Ryan, I think we talked about how ideal timing for Shore Power would be late summer after the grass has had time to harden off.
Yeah, this is prime time for it. And, I would say that there are some other methods of controlling the wild violet, right? And ground ivy. That being said, Shore Power is pretty strong. It's a nice cleanup app if you can tolerate it, and I think that's the thing in a lawn care setting. I've seen people on either one end of the spectrum or the other. Nobody's right in the middle. Like, yeah, I'll use it here and there. Like, It's either nope, I've used it and I will never use it again, or it's
Mm-hmm.
telling my customers burn and return time. That's what it is.
Burn and return time. Yep.
Hey,
Yeah,
it's true.
that's a burn and return for sure.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So let's see here. Goodness gracious. Okay. Just catching up with Jay Pink in the chat. Oh, here we go. Turf Taliban. Jacob Morissette wants to know. Been following a 5,000 square foot area with Soul Stealer since June. Pros and cons to dormant versus spring seating, as well as spring pre-emergent options. Mesotrione and quinclorac? Question mark. Rates? Question
Yep.
mark.
Mm-hmm.
Ray, why don't you, for the folks scoring at home, describe what Soul Stealer is? This is a Ray cocktail.
Okay, Soul Stealer is a specially curated combination of glyphosate, fusilade, triclopyr, and mesotrione, and the purpose of this is to try to get rid of hard to control perennial grassy weeds as well as volunteer Bermuda grass or zoysia grass. So what our deal jihad here has been doing is he's been subjecting an area to basically total death because he would like a nice lawn when all of this is done. So I don't know, Ryan. How would you feel about a spring seeding where he's at?
Yeah,
Knowing
so
that he has the
Go ahead.
option of laying down some mesotrione and quinclorac at the time of seeding. How would you feel about that? I mean, it doesn't seem
I-
particularly risky to me. Not in his area.
No, and I won't say exactly where he is, because he is on the FBI's most wanted list. And when I say FBI, I mean like Target, Home Depot, Lowe's, those people. Yeah, he can't just go in and flash his ID and buy something over there. He's on the list. So he was in the northeastern United States, the colder portions of the northeastern United States. So I would not be hurt by him doing a dormant seed necessarily. I know I think the spring and the winter, like the late winter, lingers kind of extra long there. So you do run the risk of a lot more attrition, with those swings in temperatures and things like that they might get. So that might be a concern, but I wouldn't hesitate to try and do it and take advantage of what you get. 5,000 square foot area.
Mhm.
We're not talking about a ton of money. Lord knows he saved exponentially more here by finding those deals and everything like that. It's time to put some of that money, out there in the lawn, Jake. So
Mhm.
I would do this. I would do the dormant seed. I'd come back out. I'd clean up your winter annuals, and then go ahead and overseed in the springtime. Mezzo and quinclorac is fine at seeding, so you're going to run the full rate of quinclorac, so the half gallon per acre, and then 4 ounces to the acre on the mesotrione. Run that, see how you do.
Yep.
You could follow up an app another 4 weeks later with another 4 ounces of mezzo, and then I would just be prepared to spray post out of anything that does break through as far as summer annuals, things like that. And then you can kind of assume your normal weed control with broadleaves that summer because you don't get that hot and you have a lot more options on the table to get some of those things. So look at semester formulations on like maybe a speed zone or something like that, just to clean up some of the winter annuals that might pop in that dormant seed area from having it all torn up. But other than that, I think it's a solid plan. And, as long as you are patient, should be good. Should be good.
Mhm.
Okay. EMC wants to know, what is the recommendation on reapplying PGR, T-Nex in my case, after overseeding Kentucky bluegrass on a cool season lawn? I applied T-Nex at half a fluid ounce per 1,000 2 days prior to seeding, but I'll hit my GDD reapplication September 12th, 13 days after seed down. Should I hold off on the PGR for the remainder of the season, and should I reapply per the schedule or make some other adjustments? A very good question.
Wow.
EMC.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, okay. So
Okay.
first, wow, really?
Yeah. Okay.
What? God damn, son.
You know this thing
I
about
got some thoughts on
following
this.
GDD on lawn height grasses.
Yeah.
You know what? Throw that out the window because Dr. Kreuzer developed that specifically, and I mean specifically for bent grass greens. Unless you have a bent grass green, GDD is not exactly relevant to your situation. And what probably is the case is that your regulation period is going to be far longer than 13 days, especially at half ounce of Tenex on lawn height Kentucky bluegrass.
Yeah, I would say that too. And for those of you that want to learn more about what EMC is talking about as far as the growing degree days and the reapplication, just look up Bill Kreuzer, Kreuser, formerly of University of Nebraska at Lincoln, now of the Greenkeeper app. Dr. Kreuzer's done a lot of amazing work on this of trying to model out and figure out how long a PGR app will last based on how quickly the plant metabolizes that active ingredient, right? To the point where we're now beyond regulation. We actually enter into a period, what's called a rebound, where growth actually surges once we cross a certain level or a threshold at time after application. So that's the question here is I would agree with that. And the other thing that Dr. Kreuzer has been pretty upfront about is that Kentucky bluegrass has just been so all over the map and inconsistent in the way that it performs in the growing degree day trials that it's really hard to pin down and say definitively across the board as a species that Kentucky bluegrass, is X number of GDD, right? So that being said, I would say the same thing. The other thing too that's interesting about PGRs, and again, this is all in bentgrass, right? But I mean, this work is now going on almost 25 years, and it was work done here at Ohio State with Tenex or trinexin ethyl as a growth regulator, showing that there was no negative effects to divot recovery. So they were looking at golf course, height grass, right, and looking at, okay, hey, if I'm spraying primo on fairways or, par 3 tees, things of that nature, am I actually setting myself back by using these on these types of surfaces when I have all these divots and things like that? And the answer was no. And actually, in fact, it actually helped in certain cases. There was actually research trials where they showed that. In bluegrass, I don't know that you would see the same thing because you've got a rhizomatous grass versus a stoloniferous grass and bent grass, different growth habits, things of that nature, right? So long answer to the question here is, I wouldn't necessarily be afraid to spray it one more time because I don't know how mature your seedling's going to be at day 13, especially in a interseed or overseed type of operation. If you were really feeling squirrely and if you had to do it over again, I think what I would have done, Ray, hear me out here. Okay. Grab your Reynolds wrap and let's make a hat here. I would have sprayed that primo 2 days prior, and then I would have went out there with my bagging rotary mower, and I would have hacked the absolute shit out of that Kentucky bluegrass, scalped it down, seeded into it, and then went on my way. And I probably would have gone at a higher rate. I probably would have gone at the 3/4 of an ounce STFU. I'm leaving from Hawaii. If I had Kentucky bluegrass here, and I'm going to Louisville, which comes up here, ladies and gentlemen, October 20th and 21st. Can't miss it. Ray's going to be on the continental United States, third time in 3 years. He's going to be here. It's the only time you'll see him here because otherwise we'd have to kidnap and put him in a van, and you can't drive a van from Hawaii all the way to Louisville. It's practically impossible. So this is it. Come see him. Join us if you can. But we're on a wait list, so just remember that. All right, back to the question though. Go ahead and reapply it if you really want to. I don't think you're going to hurt anything. And, it's a good question. I really enjoyed the nuance of that question. That's good stuff.
I got another out for him though.
Okay.
Out for him.
Yeah.
Is that did you know that it's actually on the label to apply an ounce of propiconazole per 1,000 square feet as a plant growth regulator on new seedings?
Yep. I think that's still on the label.
It's still on the label. Yeah, I still see it on the label. And what that will do is that will tone down the growth of the old grass. But what that'll do to your new grass seed is that will redirect energy from vertical growth down to root growth. That's what propiconazole does to cool season grasses. It's it can be a good thing, and it will prevent some, post-seeding leaf spot and powdery mildew and rust as well. So it's not all bad. It's kind of a good thing.
Uh-huh. There we go.
Yeah, so
All
there's
right.
positives to it, right?
There can be. Most certainly.
Mhm.
All right. Wyatt, with a whole bunch of numbers past his name. I think this might be his AIM or AOL screen name.
Mhm.
Wants to know, can't oversee this fall. Have to wait until spring. Bummer. Lawn is a KBG mix. Can I run prodiamine in the fall and still seed in the spring? Absolutely.
Why?
I don't
Why
know why
though?
you'd want to though. Yeah, I mean, I guess
Yeah,
trying to prevent
why?
POA. Trying to prevent POA probably is my guess.
Okay. You know what I would do instead of the prodiamine if winter POA is an issue?
Yeah,
As a fumicate,
not a bad
I would do
play. I
I
think
would do
that's
I would do progress instead, because prodiamine does not play well with seeds. And here's the thing that you know, I've been surmising is that, when you apply pre-emergent in the fall, I'm under the idea that clock stops for that pre-emergent until the soil warms up again. So if you're applying this to ground that's going to be below 32 degrees, you basically hit the pause on the timer, and that clock is not going to run again until your soil warms up to at least 50, because cold decreases the degradation of various herbicides. So I'd be really reluctant to apply stuff in the winter to grass, expecting to be able to seed back into it in the spring, especially if it's a product like prodiamine, which is rather non-selective regarding what kind of grass it inhibits the rooting of.
well, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with that, and I think the prodiamine app, if you're really worried about POA, I do agree that the opportunity there for ethofumicate is probably often overlooked. There's going to be a little bit of hurt that comes along with that, but you know,
Hey,
you
you
gotta
you take it,
gotta feel
and
the
what's on the label is the fact that esofumicate is specifically recommended for fall and winter POA control. I mean, that
very
is like
much.
the purpose of applying esofumicate, is to tamp down on the fall and winter POA. I mean, prodiamine, not so much, especially not in a cool season turf. I mean, no, I've never heard of it.
All right, let's
All right.
keep it rolling here. Let me go back over here and right here. Okay. Holy shit, we're way up here. Brent, my neighbor just came over and asked, why do we repair ball marks on greens? I gave him the answer, but maybe others have the same question. Okay. Well, why do we repair ball marks on greens? Well, a few reasons why. First, obviously, courtesy and etiquette. You don't want to have a huge crater there that you have to putt through to make your putt. And obviously, how you leave the green and the course is how others will play it behind you. So, just have some common fucking courtesy. Sorry, I didn't mean that. I was trying to be nice. Have etiquette. Uh, what can't have common fucking courtesy? Um, sorry, just fucking courtesy. Okay. So there's that aspect from a agronomic perspective. Again, typically greens are going to be either creeping bent grass here in the northern parts of the country, and some of the transition zones you might see it as well, and then other parts of the country, dwarf Bermuda grass. Some you'll see some weird ones, fine fescue. I'm not going to, or maybe zoysia. I'm not going to get into those, but for the most part, that's what you're going to see. Bermuda creeping bent grass. In either case, the ball mark could be fixed in a way to push the depression back in, not lift up and potentially rip those surface roots and kind of break it up, and then the ball mark will dry out. So that's the most basic reasons why, from a etiquette standpoint of having a flat putt after that, and then also too from trying to get the grass to heal back in, because those grasses are both stoloniferous, right? They will knit back together and you'll have a healed green. But certainly something you should take heed to if you do play the game and have some fucking common courtesy. I'm sorry, common fucking
Yeah.
courtesy. All right, John P. Hey guys, how is it possible that Sublime, the herbicide, not the band, has a 0-day reseed interval? It contains triclopyr. Let's see here. I have not played around with Sublime, but I will look it up. I know it's like mesotrione, triclopyr, and mouse. Bradley Knoll, he was in Sublime. R.I.P.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Sublime herbicide label.
What's its AI concentrations? Because I haven't
That's
looked
what I'm
into
thinking.
that too. Because
All right,
it's
you ready for this?
not. Yeah, ready. Send it.
Triclopyr, 29.5%. That's the ester. Dicamba, 16.27%, and mesotrione, 5.2%.
Okay.
So,
And what is label use rate? Typical label use rate.
let's see here. So, yeah, a quart per acre. So you're getting
Okay, at a
half
quart-
a pound of triclopyr AI per acre.
That is why, Ryan, because
Yeah.
at a half a pound of triclopyr per acre, that's not going to have enough residual to jam up seeding. That's not going to hurt seeding. And of course, cool season grass tolerates mesotrione very well, and that amount of dicamba is not enough to mess up seeding either. So that would be a good option for broadleaf weed control prior to overseeding.
Yeah, I think that's I was trying to look at that label and I haven't really studied it too well, but that definitely seems kind of what they were going for was like a sort of a pre-packaged, overseed safe essentially herbicide application. It's not a bad product. I mean, I don't know that you're going to see the greatest results in the world, but you've got enough mesotrione in there that you're going to see some positives from that.
And enough dicamba and enough triclopyr, because I can speak from personal experience that the combination of triclopyr and dicamba is a monster on broadleaf weeds. I mean, that's some crazy stuff. It works.
All right. Let's see this. All right. Harper Explorers, our good friend over there in California, and also Travis's #1 fan. God bless you, Harper. Let's see here. Yeah, hell yeah. I sodded a church area with Tifway 2 this spring. I've not heard to overseed with rye until a year or two after, but wanting to seed Mazama, Kentucky bluegrass this fall.
Yikes. Don't
know about that.
Don't. I mean, Harper, this is a good case for if it's going to go dormant, how about some Endurant? Paint that thing green.
Well, and here's my other question too on that, Ray, is in what situation in California is there a use case for overseeding Bermuda in California? What locations and what types of Bermuda would you be careful with, or which types would you be more aggressive with?
Okay. Tifway 2 is your classic, I guess, golf and sports field variety. So I'm supposing that it can take a fair amount of overseeding. However, I gotta ask, if it is strictly for cosmetic or aesthetic purposes, think about the eventual turf decline that your overseeding procedures will cause to that stand of Bermuda grass. I mean, this is why I always say that if I were to grow Bermuda in an area where it does go dormant in the winter, I would get out that green paint starting in October or November and be done with it. I will not overseed. The only exception to that would be if this were a athletic field being used for fall sports. Other than that, if it's only for churchgoers to look at and maybe walk across, no. I mean, that is not a good justification for me to overseed.
Well, there you go. You got the nickel answer there, Harper. Give it to Travis. He needs it. All right. Let's see here. Stamigina. Stamigina?
Oh,
I don't know.
God.
Can I use sofrancazone? Sulfentrazone.
Sulfentrazone.
Sulfentrazone is a pre-emergent for nutsedge when overseeding.
Don't.
Yeah.
For the love of God, don't. Because
I mean, you can, but I don't think you're going to like your overseeding.
No, you know what happens when you
Ron Henry might like your overseeding.
Yeah, well, you know what happens when you put new seed, sod, or sprigs on sulfentrazone treated ground? All of that fails to take root because sulfentrazone is so caustic to new roots and shoots. I mean, sulfentrazone is not to be taken lightly. And that's a serious herbicide right there. What you can do is a month after you've overseeded, if you still have nutsedge at that time, you are able to use halosulfuron. That is safe a month after seeding, but then I would really rethink the sulfentrazone, around the time of seeding. And in fact, advisory, some good authority has told me avoid sulfentrazone the spring after overseeding because the grass is not very tolerant of it at that time. Wait for the following year. And this information comes to me courtesy of Lushy.
Oh, I believe
he told me. No, he told me don't. He told me don't. I mean,
I don't use it specifically because there's more bad that can come from it than good. Unless it's in a really mature stand, I don't like using it. I will say this: I've seen actual herbicide trials at Ohio State where they used halosulfuron at seeding just to see what would happen. Right? They were looking at the intervals for seeding after application just to kind of see and ground test what was on the label. Halosulfuron was by far one of the most injurious to new seedlings if it was applied right before or right after seeding. But you got to it's pretty amazing is you got to this 1 month mark and there really was a rapid shift in how much
tolerance,
injury, how much less tolerance by the desirable turf. So interesting stuff there. Okay, Joseph Henry has asked. He says, "Can't overseed this fall. Hope to seed next spring and have a rye KBG lawn." We already did that one? Did I skip over that guy? Okay, I must have skipped down to that. My bad. All right. Let's see here. Eric Sands. I've overseeded Kentucky bluegrass this past Monday. I've noticed a few areas with clover that I've missed. Can I still tackle those patches this year? What could I get away with applying or wait till spring? Eric, I would wait until 28 days after you've seeded. And if you just want to nip it, you can do I would probably
Quinclorac and triclopyr. Quinclorac and triclopyr. Yeah.
And if you want to spike it with a little bit of Quicksilver, if you're feeling randy,
squirrely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Evie wants to know, for turf type tall fescue, a spring seeding is recommended this far north. No dormant seed. Just get it down early and water. Yeah. Evie makes a great point here. Turf type tall fescue, like you got to get that going like now. Like we're fast approaching the deadline to have turf type tall fescue be in good shape. And I think too, University of Minnesota up there near Evie has some really, really good white papers on their results from dormant seeding with different species. So if you search in dormant seeding, University of Minnesota turfgrass, you'll find some good literature out there about what's taken place in some of their experiments over the years. Okay, Cam. Hey, Elevator Landscapes. Sup, fellas? I'm thinking about putting down 1 more pound of N on Pop's Iron Cutter Reno. Currently 3 pounds of N for the season. Send it or call it a season. Spray fungicide in September, October. I'm saying with kind of the
Ooh,
weather pattern that we're in, I wouldn't be opposed to like another half pound going out here.
half. Yeah, I do half
Yeah.
for sure.
And also the fungicide in September, October. I don't know, what would be for a low cost option? Is there a low cost? Because Cops has some acres.
Okay,
Sorry, Justin.
I think you can do like azoxystrobin propiconazole at that time. That's a low cost option. I mean, if you want to get a little more expensive, then you got Kabuto, Velista,
Mhm.
Lexicon,
I don't know if
Exemplar.
I mean,
But
how much do you love Pops? Pops is lawn is a
no,
question.
and not only that, you know what I have to consider?
Yes.
You know, when I'm dealing with acreage, Ryan, it's often the products that are quote unquote expensive that turn out to be good values. Because
I agree.
Yeah, because we're not talking about a 1,000 or 2,000 square foot lawn. Because if I recall rightly, this was a iron cutter install on just about what is that, a half acre or an acre? It was a lot of area.
Well, and I think that's one thing to consider too about these apps. I think just take, expensive fungicide apps for 400, Alex. Okay. And I'm not
Mhm.
just talking about Cam's situation, but I want to make light of that too.
Mhm.
Is that uh a lot of times the biggest detriment to people making those apps is the upfront cost, right? Holy shit, I got to spend $570 to buy a little 11.4 ounce bottle of Lexicon. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh crap.
Now, let's just say that you have a small one, a 5,000 square foot one. Well, it's going to treat an acre. So you've got Lexicon for years that you can put out there. But
Yeah.
let's say you're in Cam's
Mhm.
situation, right? You've got an acre, half acre, something like that, right? If you equate the time and the energy and the effort that you put into that lawn, and I told you, hey, to make sure that this isn't an absolute shit show next year, I just need you to spend another 200, $500 up front, and then you'll have it covered for next year too. So,
Mhm.
500 up front, 250 for this year, just to make sure that nothing nips this stuff after, we get into,
Nothing goes bad. Nothing bad
winter
happens.
time.
Exactly.
And that's the calculus that you need to make, not like oh shit, it's $500, but dude, you just put a ass load of time, effort. And I'm not calling Cam out. I'm not saying he's not going to do this. I don't know what he's going to do. I'm just saying this in general when you're evaluating an app like that of
Mhm.
whether you do or you don't. And it becomes easier because wintertime you're making one app and you're done. Summertime when you got to make like 5 apps and do it every 2 or 3 weeks and weather's all over the place. Yeah, I understand it gets a little hairy. But just some thoughts there. Okay. Um, but spend as much as your wallet can afford. I heard somebody say that one time.
Yeah.
Take out a second
That's what
mortgage and
somebody.
buy everything on Golf Course Lawn Academy.
Yeah.
We actually that'll be the next thing is Ron will start offering reverse mortgages so you can buy all of his shit. Just wait.
Oh God. I hope
Henry
not.
Winkler will be there.
Mhm.
Let me go back to the chat. Let's see here. So we're taking just to let everybody know, Jay Pink threw it in the chat. We had an hour time limit just to take questions, trying to keep the show nice and tight. So we're going to take the final questions that we had here and finish up everything that got in here before the buzzer. Okay, Dylan Miller. Any tips for Bermuda green surrounds that get sprayed with Legacy from spraying bent grass?
Whoo, ouch.
Yeah,
Ouch.
that
Here's what
is
I
a tough
know
one.
about Legacy on Bermuda.
Nothing good.
Nothing good. I mean, no, that is more than an STFU. That's more like a go away and don't come back for a long time. Because here's what I know about fluorprimidol on Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
It regulates the heck out of Bermuda, especially your semi-dwarf varieties that are commonly used on the 3/8 to 1/4 inch cut areas around a green. I mean, that's what I know. Like, for example, have you ever seen what happens to Tahoma 31 that gets even straight cutless? I know what happens.
I don't. I've never done that.
What happens is that area of Tahoma 31 stops growing for approximately a month and a half.
Yeah. No, I'm laughing. I'm laughing at Timmy Bluegrass just posted something, or I was tagged in something a bit ago from Timmy Bluegrass in the Dirty Deeds chat, which if you want to check that out, www.patreon.com/Burn You can join right there and be inside the what Matt refers to as the shit stain of the internet in lawn care. So there's that going for you. Let's see.
All right.
A few more questions here to finish up. Dylan also had a second one. Ray, what should you spray to kill Bermuda grass and bent grass? 2%? Question mark.
No, easy. More cutlass. More
Yeah.
more legacy, or else you know what's really bad on Bermuda? CPRO has this 3-way PGR combination that has florprimidol, trinexapac, and paclobutrazol.
Musketeer?
Musketeer, yep.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if it were me, I would be looking at high rates of Paclo.
Yep.
Would be
Bermuda hates paclobutrazol. It hates it.
Yeah, and especially in fall where Dylan is in Georgia, I'd be like, no problem, 8 to 16 ounces per acre on the Paclo and send it. You'll beat the shit out of that Bermuda. And
Or
then
else,
let that rebound and push that bent as hard as you can to fill in the gaps. So,
yep.
Okay. EMC commented back that he actually did the process I talked about where he scalped down KVG and backed it off. So good job, sir. Let's see. We've just got 4 more here. Michael Pedroza, can you explain proper rotting with evaporative transpiration? I'd like a more calculated approach for responsible water consumption and high quality turf. Michael, how long you got, buddy?
Yeah. How long have you got? I mean, seriously.
I think let's just take it at a basic level. Quick response. We've talked about this in different shows, and gosh, someday we'll pay an intern to sit down and catalog all of our shows and topics and stuff like that. But in its current format, we just don't do that. We just talk. So the best way to think of this, Michael, would be think of it like a car. Okay. Your gas tank is the reservoir of soil in the plant that holds water, right, for your system, for your turf grass system. Okay. And you and rainfall have the ability to add water to the system, right? And the sun, the wind, and the relative humidity have the ability to take it away. Okay. So essentially, if you get a really hot, dry, windy day, so it's 90 degrees, the relative humidity is in the upper 30s, low 40s, and the wind is howling at 10 to 15 miles an hour, your gas mileage, right, in your soil is going to go way down. You're going to be sucking down. It's like the 10 miles of the gallon Winnebago or something like that. Big gas guzzler. That was going to require you to fill up more often to replace that amount of water or fuel that is leaving your system, right? And that's happening in the form of grass transpiring water out, right? So loses water to the atmosphere to cool itself, and then the soil loses water just through evaporation, right? Okay. So in times when we do those things, we can equate those, just like we have a miles per gallon, we have a metric or a number that we can equate this amount to this amount, right? So in ET format, we express this as inches per day lost, right? So just as you see, if you look at the weather report and they say, hey, we got 0.75 inches of rain here at the airport. Now back to you, Susie. Well, at the same time, Susie, gosh, she's gorgeous. She is.
like
At the same time, though, thank you, Oli. Oli's going to do sports later. But to get back to the point here, so we can express that in the format of inches per day that are lost, right? So let's say we have that really hot, dry, windy day like I just described, 90 degrees, low humidity, lots of wind. We might lose from our system, both from our plant, from transpiration, our soil from evaporation, maybe a quarter to a third of an inch. That's a pretty good amount. That's a pretty high ET rate. If you're in cool season country, if you're in the desert Southwest or something like that, a really arid climate, it could be double that easily. Okay. So, we have water that goes in, and that's in the form of irrigation and precipitation, right? And then we have water that comes out. So again, think about it in the gas analogy and context. Okay. Now, here is the one trick that you need to think about. It's not a one-for-one replacement theory, okay? Because we know this about grass. We know this from loads and loads of research. Cool season, warm season, doesn't matter what type of grass that we have, is that we can replace at somewhere between 60 and 80% of the water lost and irrigate off of that metric, right? And say, we're going to be good to go. We're going to be able to grow really, 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 really good grass that's not too wet or overwatered, right? And have reasonably good expectations of how that plant will perform. So imagine that, you lose this amount of gas, right? From evaporation, transpiration, things like that. But instead, when you show up at the gas station, I'm going to say, hey, listen, man, like, you lost this many gallons, or in this case, inches per day. You lost, let's just say it is, for easy math, we'll say a third of an inch. Okay. So 0.33 inches. Okay. And I'm saying, hey, you only need to put 80% of that back, right? So that's about maybe a quarter inch that I need to replace. So I'm saying that you only need to put about 80% of that gas back in your gas tank to still get the performance that you need out of your car. And then we'll see what the weather's like the next day. And here's a mistake that people make too often too is, again, ET is a function of wind, temperature, humidity, those three things. Okay. And soil type can have a little bit to do with it too, in terms of how much your soil will give off. But just think about those three characteristics right now. Okay. So people will say, man, gosh, it's really hot. I got to water, and this is how people, have just thought or been taught or see some dumbass video on YouTube, whatever. Okay. It's not these three jackamokes talking. It's somebody that's trying to sell you a wedding agent or some other fucking bullshit. Sorry. Like the smell of that, Lily?
I like the smell.
Me too. So, the thing here is that they'll say, well, it's really, really hot. You got to water. And in those really humid conditions or those windless days that, you're not losing as much water to the atmosphere just because of temperature and not because those other two things, wind and humidity, are against you, you may not need to water as much, right? So there are things there that you can use, in terms of how much water is leaving the system. And again, use that car analogy, right? That's your gas tank. How much you need to fill it back up is based on those conditions of what comes out, what your mileage is, right? Or what your ET rate is per day. So think of it like that. And again, you don't need to replace it one for one, 60 to 80% of what that number comes out to be. So to find this information, NOAA has a pretty good website, National Ocean and Atmospheric Association or Administration, whatever the hell it is. Sorry, and studying my acronyms today. But you can look there. They have a pretty good site that pinpoints that for you. Some locations on weather sites and data will also give that to you and calculate it for you based on those things that we talked about there with wind, air temperature, humidity, based on that. So that's as short as I could make it, and as explain like I'm 5 as I could make it. I probably could have done a better job if I had more time, but that's what I got. Ray, anything you want to add, change, delete?
No, I think you basically covered it. And the main point is that it's about replacing enough, but without overdoing it. And you have to know your area and the ET for your area. And like, I know for me, I'm in good shape in my area, for example, if I replace up to an inch of water per week. And how I replace that is often in 3 waterings per week total.
And that's another caveat there, is you don't have to fill it up every single day like that. You can stretch that out over a week, and the demand and the result.
It depends on your grass type and your soil type as well, because I've had conversations with people where they are in an area that's got extremely high ET, and they're asking me, hey, how come my grass is dying? I'm watering deep and infrequent, and the whole thing is frying up. And I said, you idiot. you need to water at least every other day and not let it dry down that much. And by the way, if you're on certain types of soils with certain types of grasses, putting down an inch or an inch and a half of water one time per week is not going to make it. You're going to kill your lawn. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot of nuance there of how frequently and how much to replace, not how much to replace, but how to break up that replacement over the course of a week. So think about that. All right, and we'll talk more about that later. Let's see, just a few more here. Jack, yes, super chat question. If I leveled and overseeded Nor guys, running ryegrass, but didn't cover the bare spots 5 days ago. Have water consistently. Should I cover the spots now, or is it too late and just cry into the winter? I'm just worried about it drying out and never germinating. Okay. But didn't cover the bare spots. So he didn't level those. I don't know exactly what you mean, Jack. I'm just going to say that it's ryegrass. You could grow this on fucking concrete if you can keep it wet enough. Just keep watering it. You'll be good.
Okay? Yeah, just keep watering it and call it good. But of course, if you're trying to grow this without water, I don't know if I have any good words of wisdom for you.
Nah, if that's
I mean that's just a hard thing, yeah. Trying to grow grass without water. I mean,
I would advise anybody who's thinking of doing this not to.
John Perry knows, and if John Perry is telling you this,
thank you, JP.
Take it as the gospel. He is dirt. He is Turf Jesus. Okay. J Farm back in 2 shows in a row with questions. Good for him. Great to see him. Seriously. On all of the quote unquote 28 days after seeding, I'm assuming he's talking about herbicide labels, is after germination or after seeding. Big difference if the seeding is a slow germinator like KVG. So, they're very general for that reason, to kind of cover their butts. And I think a lot of times that label is pushed out. Quinclorac, a very good label, which listed by species in terms of what those intervals are.
When you can. Like yeah, when you can apply it. Exactly.
A lot of lawyers speak and a lot of CYA in those labels, J Farm. So, play appropriately, follow the law, but at the same time, they're taking some of that stuff into account for sure. All right. The guy who looks like Prairie, but is actually P41R1E, almost like Matt's favorite form to fill out, ID10T, is, do people drain their above ground pools in the lawn before winter freeze? What kind of damage might chlorine and bromine pool chemicals do to the grass? The answer is lots. And I would be very cautious about doing that if you don't want to see any negative effects. I know that sucks, and I know that's not the answer that most people want to hear, but the downstream side of your pool should not be showpiece turf if you're just draining it out. So, Ray, any other comments on that?
Yeah. In fact, if I were going to drain an above ground pool into a turf area or into soil, what if I told you I would literally apply a chlorine neutralizer to that pool first?
It's an interesting concept, Ray. Where would you recommend somebody go find something like that?
Okay.
I've never heard of it or thought of that before. It's a good idea.
Here's a fun fact. Did you know that vitamin C or ascorbic acid is a chlorine neutralizer?
I did not know that.
So if you were to, say, throw a pound of crystalline vitamin C into your average size pool, that will destroy all of the chlorine present in that pool. Gone.
Look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what. You're not going to learn more about vitamins and pools, and also get the very best turf advice and dick jokes all in the same channel. And that's what we are here at the Grass Factor. We want to thank you all. It's been a great show running through all these questions. We'll probably try and do a few more of these. I like this chat going back to the old school like Matt used to do it. Matt will be back next week. Matt's, you don't want to know. Let me just say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll do a quick hangout after show with our patrons. And if you don't know how to do that, again, www.patreon.com/burn of return. Come join us over there. And that way you can talk dirty to us. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Oli, do you like the smell?